It's a short reading that leads to a deep well, and it's the second to last paragraph. If not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we have been discussing. There are many helpful books also. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. Be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they offer. So Paul, if you could just talk a little bit about your experiences with that.
You'll have to unmute yourself, Paul.
Paul, alcoholic. Hello, everybody. Happy to be here. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you fine.
All right, fine. Yeah, of course. There's the statement in the big book. Obviously, they must have seen it in their own lives by the quote by that Herbert Spencer about contempt prior to investigation. So, what does that mean? In my own experience, is that you don't investigate. The contempt is you think you know, and that's that. And obviously inhibits our growth through the effects of the program, because basically one of the aspects they call of the disease is it's a disease of perception. So it's a disease of living from conclusions that aren't conclusive. So these things, it's just a normal blind spot most of us have, which is we believe in something without knowing it or not knowing it. We just take it for granted in a sense. So, like I know best concerning my own life. And obviously that was proven to be wrong. So, yeah, in my own experience, AA allowed me to go into a lot of other topics that I wouldn't have any, there would have been no way. I don't see cocaine addicts as ardent readers. Yeah, that wasn't that wasn't one of the effects it had on me. So I got sober. I remember San Francisco. Started to go to meetings. Started to feel better, and then my head, in some respects, was coming out of my ass. And I reviewed like what was the best aspect of my previous life, entering this new life of recovery. And there was a period, though rather short, it was a few years, but it's pretty profound. When I was like 19 or 20, I was on a pre-probation program from 17 to 20, which kept me under surveillance. I still was still acting out, but I had to act out usually in the shelter of people. I couldn't be doing it outside much or walking around the streets. So one of my friends got involved in a meditation, a spiritual group, and he came back, and he was a good friend of mine, and sang the praises of it. And I went and heard some people speak, and I got initiated into this form of meditation. And I discovered that I actually probably wasn't really in the realm of being a real addict yet, because wanting to know God was a substantial enough reason to curtail my using, which I had no idea there was anything available like that. But that urge for some kind of completion through a spiritual avenue, was sufficient enough to, I drank maybe 3 Heinekens in 4 years and didn't do any narcotics or any other drugs. So from 20 to 24, I was deeply enthused by spiritual seeking. So I got introduced to a lot of different things. And so when I came back into life from AA and when I was 36 years old, I tried to go back to like what worked in this life because not much had. And that period seemed to be a beacon, in my dark history, so to speak. So I started to attempt to learn, and especially at one of the suggestions in the program to improve our conscious contact with this presence is prayer and meditation. So I decided to try to go to do meditation again. And so I read different books, and all of this really furthered the principles and the way of life of AA. They didn't replace the way of life of AA, but I think the way of life of AA is a pretty large umbrella, and there's a lot of other possibilities that the way of life avails us to. Yeah, and I think it's stupid of us to withhold other possibilities that will enhance the illumination that the way of life of recovery is bringing into our lives. So, yeah. So I tried, I found some stuff, and basically, AA led me to other topics that brought a much clearer illumination of the problem. Yeah, I mean, I could see the manifestations of how self had defeated me by doing the inventory and seeing my role in things. But I didn't see, until I did, the disease or the disease of obsession with self, this mental addiction to this idea of being Paul. I didn't have any clue that was really the cause of the irritability, restlessness, and discontent. I had no idea, and AA brought me to that understanding, and then other things illuminated that understanding, and I had an event, a very clear one, that was one of those turning points in recovery. It's not there isn't just one turning point. There's a lot of turning points. A lot of them have the direction of turning towards the light. So there's a lot of these turning points. And one of them was recognizing with a lot of sense-feltness as a verification that this idea of self is really a foreign pathogen, so to speak. It's an idea that's not homegrown. It's sort of got developed in the head, the brain, and its idea of me became me, so to speak. And all the yapping in the head wasn't really reinforcing what I am. It was reinforcing what I'm not, this idea of me. And that idea of me was very uncomfortable to wear, It was very tight in certain areas and made me feel very irritable, restless, and discontent. And so I constantly pursued to try to get out of it, by any means possible. First, it was, when I was young, reading science fiction and Edgar Allan Poe and stuff. Then it became drinking heavily, quickly followed by drugs, and then arriving at what drug would change how I felt the fastest and what way of taking the drug would bring about the quickest result. So I became an intravenous drug user, basically, because I was trying to get out of how I was feeling and who I was feeling as quickly as possible. And that demand was so strong that I fell into a category of an alcoholic or an addict, which is I'm willing to pay any consequence tomorrow not to feel uncomfortable now. Yeah. And that basically was the theme of my life. So that's why this idea of non duality just grew in my life from the recognition that self is foreign to me. Because the whole premise of non-duality is I am what I'm looking for. And in active addiction, that was the exact opposite. I did not want to be what I was or thought I was, and I was looking for any means to get out of it. So it's been a completely it's been a huge turning point and a complete turning around. And these ideas that didn't come from the program, but landed and grew in the space that the program afforded me, because I needed to be sober, first and foremost. I needed to recover from certain conditions and circumstances. And then a lot of these ideas I got introduced to while sober, but not through the program of AA, had the space and the strength to grow. And all they've done is actually further illuminate recovery and the way of life of being sober, the habit of being sober. So yes, like the reading said, yes, there's a lot of value that can be introduced to our way of life that doesn't come from the big book and stuff like that. But it will definitely illuminate the big book and things. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. I'm so happy to be in the habit of being sober. It's like normal life. It's not like I'm trying to be sober. It's not like I'm afraid I'm not going to be sober. It's just the habit of being sober is fucking awesome because you'd have to, it's in a way, a lot of times you go to meetings and what gets provoked is a gratitude for what's absent in your life, which seems to be present in other people who are sharing. And it's just such a fucking great, uh, it's not even relief anymore. It's a whole different world. Yeah, where relief is expressed and brought out so easily because it's already here. Yeah. So yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
I don't know if I hit any point of what we were talking about, but there you go.
I don't see any hands up. Can you talk a little bit about meditation? In the past, you've said that you did it in that some people it's difficult to sit quietly, but they can just mindfulness or awareness during activity, like walking meditation or doing the dishes or whatever. And did you have to go through the silent meditation in order to experience meditation during activity, if that makes sense?
Yeah, yeah. I think some people that's how it goes. I'm not you see, the whole point of step 11 is to improve one's conscious contact. It isn't to become a meditation master. Yeah. Sobriety is pretty free range after the establishment of the habit of being sober. And there's going to be your idea of what it's like to improve one's conscious contact is going to change as you stay sober. It's going to be much more expansive than two things I have to do, which is prayer and meditate. It's gonna open up usually, I feel. And I think most people have something they love that is is a constant improving one's conscious contact. Maybe it's going in the water, maybe it's maybe it's gardening, maybe whatever. I have no idea. You do, what that passion is. Uh, So, but in the beginning, I had a really, what needed to be done was breaking the unconscious contact I was in all day. Yeah. So, because I was completely uh, living a life narrated and decisions were being made from self. Yeah. So I was in an unconscious contact that was constantly improving itself by every time it offered me a solution, which was drinking and using. It was improving that unconscious contact. So I'm in the same, really the same activity, but with a different intent, which is to improve my conscious contact with that consciousness. Yeah. Not that unconscious idea of being Paul, but a conscious living presence. Yeah. So, yeah, I did the meditation. It took me a couple of years to make it a steady, a daily activity because I was suffering the consequences of a long-term unconscious contact. It really was. So I was truly out to lunch. So I needed to start doing some formal shit and meditation because of my past experience. I went back to it, and it took about 3 years really of checking it out. And there's so many methodologies which I fell upon. You know, there's the basic Zen, which is not doing anything, just following the breath and stuff. And then there's Vipassana, which has gotten very popular, which is many forms of meditation in the Buddhist world. And Vipassana I did quite a lot of, and I went to retreats on long-term retreats. And these things will bring about a certain peace of mind where a lot can be revealed, yeah? Because a lot gets obscured by an agitated mind, yeah? Yeah, so, but other people who aren't really drawn, they're too anxious, they're like nervous types. Meditation, I wouldn't torture myself to try to sit. You can walk around, you can do it by walking in the nature, you can use prayer more, whatever. But let's not believe there's only two saddles to improve our conscious contact. It's when you're in conscious contact, which I believe is our inherent state, just knowing that affords everything that you're doing the ability to improve that conscious contact. Yes? So, yeah. I'm not a believer that I, as Paul, have to acquire a spiritual condition and then maintain it as Paul. I see that I don't believe I am Paul and that I am a spiritual condition is basically my sense. Yeah. So improving my conscious contact isn't determined by specific activities. Yeah. I'm awake to being awake. Yeah. So. So as long as I'm alive, it lends itself to me being aware that I'm aware. Yeah, it's just that simple. And so now, did anything I do bring me to that point? It may look like it, but I don't really believe it. I believe I've never not been that point. Tell you the truth. Yeah, all I really feel is what needs to be diminished is a mental condition. Yeah, and then uh, the inherent spiritual condition just becomes obvious. That's all. It's not like it becomes, it becomes obvious to us because we're up the ass of self, which is an extreme mental condition. Yeah. So when your head pops out of the mental condition represented by the ass of self, uh, something becomes obvious to one, which is a quote unquote newfound spiritual condition, which isn't a newfound condition. It's the condition. Yeah. I don't believe we become a spiritual condition. I believe we are a spiritual condition. Yeah. So, whatever.
Thank you, Paul. Andy has a question. I'm going to ask you to unmute, Andy.
Andy, come in, Andy.
I'm coming in, Paul. Yeah, Paul. Yeah, meditation. It was broken down for me the other day. It's active listening throughout the daytime. It's not that, Paul. I finished a detox off not so long ago, and I cannot get out of self. It doesn't matter what I do, helping others, doing service. I cannot get out of help, except seeing a divine proctologist. I don't know what to do. Have you got any ideas?
Well, just sit with that. See what it reveals you. Yeah. Maybe you're not the self that wants to get out of self. Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. See, when self, Paul identified as this mental image, runs into the fact that it can't get out of self, it's very, very disheartening for self. But for Paul, it's really a hallelujah. Now, because what will happen is there'll be a loss of interest in the activity of self trying to get out of self. You'll see it, that it doesn't work, it won't work, it hasn't worked. And there's a great relief in that. Yeah. So, yeah, as Andy, you're fucked, and therefore you're not, because you're not that Andy. Hallelujah. Yeah.
Is that what? Is that? Sorry.
Trying to deny that, trying to put it off, trying to fucking, use the next plan to get out of self as self, just furthers the frustration and the disappointment and the anger because self can't get out of self. Yeah. Why it keeps continuing is because one aspect of that is called Andy. So Andy, aka self, truly believes as Andy it can escape self. You can't because you're not Andy. You're self in a way. You're identified as self. Therefore, for all intents and purposes, you are self called Andy, and Andy, aka self, can't get out of self. That wasn't a proclamation. That was an observation of people in the program who had that realization because they finally realized they, as whoever they were calling themselves to be, was the activity of self trying to get out of self. Yeah? And it doesn't work, nor will it work, nor has it worked. Yeah.
So I just sit with it then and give up. No, I don't mean give up. Just sit with it.
Sit with it or get up with it or whatever, but just recognize. So when you see the activity that's fucking whipping you into another way of trying to get out of self, you'll see the root of the problem, which is the act of being identified as self. Yeah. So the problem, trying to get out of the problem, is truly the root of the problem.
Right.
Yeah. You're just
Yeah.
seeing the problem that you've been trying to get out of, which is a beginning point. You're not seeing it's the problem that's seeing the problem it's trying to get out of. Yeah.
Okay. I'll
So you're at
try.
the
I'll sit
second
with it.
phase now, and you recognize, Jesus Christ, basically my whole day is really the theme of Paul, aka self, trying to get out of self. And I keep recognizing the failure of that, but it keeps doing it. It doesn't submit, it doesn't surrender to the fact that self can't get out of self. And truly, I don't believe it will, tell you the truth. I believe one moment you'll see you're not self. Yeah. And then maybe you'll realize what I was hoping for as a goal based on my efforting and actions to get out of self is an inherent fact because I'm not in self. Hallelujah. In other words, I don't have to acquire a spiritual condition. I am a spiritual condition. Yeah. It's a totally different way of looking at it. Completely. And it's worked with me. That's why I come to these talks. If it didn't work, it would just been another novel idea that turned into self trying to get out of self. But when I saw I wasn't this idea of self, then all of self trying to get out of self was explained in a second. I saw it. This is the main activity of the bondage of self, is self trying to get out of self. So nothing has worked, obviously. Why? Because self can't get out of self. It's not because you didn't do enough or that and that. It's just what you're not can't get out of what you're not. It just doesn't work. So
I will sit with it then. I'll be back on Thursday if it hasn't changed. Okay.
good, good.
Thank you, mate.
Will be exactly the same on Thursday. That you can count on. That
Oh,
you
shit.
can count on. We're not going anywhere because I am in a relief that knows no bound. And it didn't come from me getting out of fucking anything. It didn't. So yeah, come on Thursday, come on Tuesday, come to 2024, go back to 2011. It's the same old message because it is the message. Yeah. The root of the problem is, knowing it or not, you're in the act of being identified as something that you're not. And everything, all your decisions, all your conclusions, all your historical ideas are rooted in that fact, which is not a fact. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Don't come to the meeting, and I can guarantee you, if you don't come to the meeting, the same message was at that meeting. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, nice one, mate.
Thanks, Andy. Tanya, you're up next. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hello.
Hello.
So I don't know if I can like really try to get across what I want to, but I'll do the best that I can. So you talked about a habit of being sober, and that I love that, because I feel that this is a habit too. Like, I feel that this mechanism that we call mind, it has like an energy to it, and as that collapses, or as that starts being seen as fictional, right? Like, it's important to come to these talks because something happens that I don't know exactly how it happens, but more and more this intelligent energy that we are starts really kind of defragmenting from that energy system of mind that's happening. It seems to like loosen up more and more and more, and I realize, like, that's why I come. Like, sometimes I don't even know why I show up at these meetings, because I know I've heard the message, right? I think I've heard a lot of people say that here, but I think what it is that it's not me doing this. It's who I really am making me come to these things. There's a scene that happens. I can't really explain it, but I was cooking right now, listening to you and thinking, oh my God, like there's just, then I had no words, but um, there's just something that's happening. And it like bypasses my mind exactly. It bypasses my mind. But when you said that it, that there's a habit, it's a habit being sober. This is a habit too. We've been in the habit of thinking we're a person
Yes.
and we're not.
No.
Yeah.
I
So
think you're doing a great job. You've captured uh, what I humbly hope occurs here. You captured it rather well.
you,
Yeah.
thank you so much for, I understand now why there's such satsangs. You know, I used to think, why do people keep going to these satsangs when they're not getting, like, they're not getting it? I used to think that several years back, but we can't
Yes.
question what people are doing. There's different things that work for different people. And I just, I really appreciate you doing this because um, this is, this is being seen finally. And I'm very grateful. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yes. You don't need to know. That's the beauty of it. So much stuff gets revealed. Inordinate reliance or honoring knowing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being is such a much different dimension. Yeah. It doesn't demonstrate any thought or effort whatsoever. And there's no need to retain anything or, gather it and put it in a safe space. It doesn't. It's just, it brings about a, a whole system wide relief that the system itself, because it works with particulars and this and that, misses it. It misses it completely. Yeah. It thinks it has to get to be okay by doing and having shit. It doesn't entertain the idea it can start doing and having shit from okayness. Yeah. Just doesn't, it doesn't compute. And it's a failed system. There's nothing right or wrong with it. It doesn't, what's behind it, which is us, has such a much larger spectrum than black and white and yes and no and this or that. Yeah. We can see, our seeing can be lent through many, many lenses, not just a black or white lens. Very either I do this or I don't, or I do that. No, life is not like that. Yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah.
can be directing tons of people in a job and be directed by spirit. Yeah. You can, it's all just it's truly like we used to use the example of, we're like marathon runners stuck in a mental closet. We need, no matter how many laps we do in the closet, it doesn't bring the exhilaration of just running a long way. It just doesn't. Yeah. It's not satisfying for what we are of. Yeah. To be held in a rigid fundamental condition. We're something that gets introduced to an idea and it's ivy like growing on a wall. After a while, the ivy has taken over the role of the wall. Yeah, it's just beautiful. So I thank you. You captured the spirit of what we're attempting to communicate. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Stefan, you're up
It's been
next.
very good lately, the talks, because a lot of people's shares have really captured, I feel, the spirit of how I don't know how to say it, but the spirit that I'm in during the Zooms. Yeah, it's just awesome. It's been a very interesting couple of weeks of the Zooms. We've been brought to a lot of lovely points that you can really, it's just like a drop from that fountain just enthuses you for a lifetime. It's unbelievable. So yeah, very it's cool. It's been cool lately. Thank you. Next, yeah, Kaiser, Walter.
Stefan, you're up next.
Thank you. Hey, Paul, I think it's been answered, what you've been sharing and everybody else. Thank you, though.
Oh, thank you. Good to see you. On having never left. Truly, Stefan is yeah, the standard bearer of on having never left. Yes. All right then. Carl, anyone else?
No other questions.
Wow. That's cool. Well, we can end early if we want.
In the big book, it talks about, being.
Usually gets a question.
What was that?
When we threaten to leave early, that usually gets a question going.
Lebowski. Come on in, James.
Lebowski, show yourself.
Hey, my friend, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm here.
I can't see you, but we can
I'm
hear
not
you.
sure. I'm on an old device though, so I didn't. Okay, cool. Well, I just wanted to say thank you, and I wanted to reaffirm what the gal just said, because I kind of drifted away from regular attendance under the assumption that, okay, I've gotten what I need. But there's something about the way the head works its way back up the ass. I don't know how it can get up there without you feeling it happening, but once it's happened, it's happened. And I just want to say thank you, because I literally had one of those moments where I realized the tie-in between attaching the my to whatever's going on, say label it anxiety, but attaching the my to it, making it my anxiety, and then doing what we've talked about before, giving it all the meaning it has for the me, which I then all of a sudden get to realize I can't prove that even exists. And I'd have just been galloping along under the assumption that it does if I hadn't have been drug in here or been lucky enough to have tripped and fallen in here and heard this message and then considered it and felt the relief that comes with it. So I just wanted to say thanks. I was afraid you're going to leave early.
Thanks, James. Yeah,
That's all I got.
Pleasure to see you. Yeah. And hopefully, if there's any feeling that you've lost the thread hopefully will always be made available. So yeah. Yeah, that's one of the points. Yeah. It grows after a while. Sometimes it'll take you 30 seconds of listening. Yeah. Yeah, it's just again, you get into the habit of being awake, so to speak. So all the stuff, all the mental activities that's implying something different, they don't gain much traction, yeah, because you're in the habit of being awake, yeah. 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 So even when the head tells you it's up in the ass of self, you're not in the habit of believing it anymore. Yeah. So let it stay up in the ass of self. It's a nice place for it. Then you'll know where its location is, because you're definitely not up the ass of self. So it's nice that it's told us where it is, because we're not that. Really. It's so used to pontificating. It's like an act of triangulation, and it's so under the assumption that it always works because it used to. It doesn't know what to deal with when the host becomes awake to its presence. Yeah. Yeah. The whole tables shift then. The whole pecking order is based on us being in unconscious contact with it. Really. When that starts changing, it's the game is over. It doesn't. It will never admit that. But the game is basically over. Once you become awake, which you are now, yeah, and you see what you're not, it just lends itself to more of that. You see more of what you're not, and if you're in recovery, you can bring what you see to step 6 and 7. And let all that storage space start being used for some living growth, yeah? Let all those old ideas, which are based on the one who has all the old ideas, weaken because you're not the one who had the old ideas. That's the oldest idea of them all, yeah? All this starts to weaken. And then what happens? Things change, and you're expressing different conditions than you used to. And you observe that. And so now you have come to believe that something that was already so is so now, which is you're awake. Yeah? You've never not been awake. Yeah? If you're constantly awake to selfing, you'll be in unconscious contact. Yeah? It's the awakeness to the selfing that produces the sense of being a self. Now the awakeness is in the habit of being awake to awakeness. That's all. Hallelujah. Yeah. You feel that presence. You completely realize something has done for you what you can't do for yourself. And so you just keep on expanding on that. And you travel lighter as a whole. Yeah. Yeah. And you have incredible ability to enjoy peace of mind. Yeah. All those things it described, you know, the problem doesn't exist for you right now. Fucking hallelujah. And you have the enjoyment of knowing that. Yeah. It's not enough for the problem not to exist as you, because that's the condition, truly. The problem has never existed as you. But to be able to enjoy that is the awakeness, yeah? You are now awake to the fact that the problem truly has never existed as you. Never, ever, yeah? You're awake to that fact. So now you have an experience from there that the problem doesn't exist for you, because it doesn't exist, nor has it ever existed as you. It just kept telling us it did, yeah? It's assumed that it did. It always acts as if it did, but in fact it never was. Hallelujah. Yeah. What you come to has always been the case. What you arrive at through this life has always been the case. You have always been of a spiritual nature. Yeah. What needed to be diminished was the mental condition, truly. Yeah. It overrode its boundaries, yeah? It started to represent all of us at the expense of what we actually are, yeah? We've lived through it. We're not dead. So now we have the opportunity to recover from that seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Yeah? Hallelujah. Good to see you, James. Always, yeah.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Paul. Up next is Justin.
Hello, Paul. Thank you for your message, sharing this again. I do wonder, can you pinpoint one specific moment where this became so clear for you that you can see there is a time before that point where I was identified as Paul, and there is clearly a life after that moment. And
No,
I also
I'm not a believer of that. No.
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 Okay.
No. No.
But my head makes a story of Paul, and a few things included is like there seemed to be a radical energy shift in you, like a Kundalini awakening. I don't know how you call it, but
Yeah, but
it
that
seems
doesn't.
like,
All those are expressions of
yeah.
something. The
Mhm.
expressions aren't necessary to authenticate the something.
Yeah, I believe so. But still, if I look at the teachers that inspire me, I can see all of them had like really a radical thing, like not like living lighter every day a little bit, but it seemed to be a radical shift. And I still can see that somewhere in your life story. There is, I believe, some critical shift at some point.
Well, yeah, there was. Yeah, I was struck sober. That was one of them. I got struck sober. You know what struck means? Can you hear me? I think we lost them.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm muted.
Oh, all
Yeah,
right. So,
I understand what you say. Yeah,
but the point is, I don't want to go into
no,
uh, those examples because I've learned that people will use
yeah,
what's said to disqualify themselves from a previous condition.
yeah,
I don't care how anything, I don't care how or how something arrived because what arrived has told me it's always been this way. So did it actually arrive? So I'm not a big proponent of speaking about the phenomena that seem to be an expression of something. Yeah. I much rather stay on the message, which is to recognize what you're not. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
all.
That's what I value very much as well. What you say, and I think that's another marker that still you are at you have something. Well, yeah. But for
If
me, it's a second hand
whatever
sense.
has
I
me,
understand.
whatever has me is readily available for anyone everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that, and I realize that when I sit nice and cozy in my house. But when something happens in the street, then I can really see what I do understand and what not. And I think, like some teachers say, that's where the rubber hits the road. That's yeah,
Yes, well, this is why by entertaining these ideas, I find uh, a broad way of describing it is there'll be a traveling lighter while you're walking in the streets. Yeah, whatever those streets are in this action figure life, not caused by the action figure, but expressed by the action figure. Yeah, something has happened that outshines circumstances and situations so that your most precious conditions need to be in a contrived, controlled environment. That's not true. Yeah. What you are outshines circumstances and conditions. Do circumstances and conditions still have effects? Of course they do. You're in an experiential event. This is a dreaming, and the dreaming has wallops and impacts. But what will allow this idea that we're sharing will allow a traveling lighter through whatever life has in store for you as this action figure. To me, this has a broad application. Yeah. Me talking about Kundalini and all this stuff, a lot of people are going to feel like they've been left out, and that they're going to have to go through some incredible, profound event for the obviousness to be forever recognized. I don't believe it's true. I don't. So I try not to emphasize any of that.
No.
I
Yeah.
don't, because I saw what happened when I was at satsangs. For people that don't know what satsang is, they mean association with truth and stuff, but there are a lot of certain avenues of spirituality. The meanings that they hold are described as satsangs. Sat means truth, and sang means association with truth, association with. So in Hindu, satsang, yeah? So satsangs, people would describe the day they woke up, yeah? And I used the example of like the person was in Walmart on Wednesday morning on October 11th, walking through the appliance section, and suddenly a toaster fell off the third shelf and hit him on the head. And at that moment, they woke up. Now they share that innocently, and then a lot of the people that hear them go to fucking Walmart, have someone knock the toaster over on October 11th or whatever, with the hopes that they'll reproduce the effect, as if that effect was the cause of the awakening. It didn't cause awakening. It's how a recognition of something came about, but it didn't cause any freaking awakening. The awakening is always awake. Yeah? So if you believe, oh, this has to happen, you're caught in the limited view of this world. Nothing has to happen. Yeah. And therefore anything can happen. You could read a telephone book and wake up. Yeah. That could have been your profound moment. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not denying anything, but I just don't like the affirmation of it, because the way the mental state hears it, it separates itself from the possibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm never going to go to India. I'm never going to do tantric yoga, whatever. I can't even go to Walmart. There isn't one nearby. I can't even go to Walmart and get hit with the toaster. So I just know the head, and the head is always looking for out. It always wants to put all the emphasis on the messenger and dismiss the message, you know? So it's just something that I don't know. I've seen it. I've been in a seat assignment of sharing stuff for years, and I've seen some of the pitfalls of it, and I've seen some things that work, yeah? And I attempt to just stick with what works.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not denying all that, yeah? But
And would you say you call it living lighter, but it can also be like you don't have a defense mechanism anymore, so everything will hit you harder maybe, and can we
it
say
may,
like
but there's no you that it hits harder. See,
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
beauty of it. See, there's a loss. See, you're not going to have Kundalini for 40, 50 years. Probably not. You're not going to have, if you had an epiphany every day, it would become ordinary. See, these things have a unique meaning because they're infrequent. Yes, but the sense of awakeness isn't infrequent. Yeah,
yeah.
it's readily always available at all times.
But
Yeah.
still, I think you have to be ripe for it, because some people will go to the loony bin when they wake up. They just they lose their mind, or something happens, and they end up in the psychic hospital. Or
Well, listen, if you may see me as a somewhat of an authority, My diagnosis of everyone here, everyone is right for it right now.
Yeah.
Because you are it. You as Justin or me as Paul may not be right for it ever, really. But what you are is completely right for it. Yeah. See, that's the whole point. See, Paul is always looking for specialness. Paul is always looking, I don't want it to be a public open door. I want it to be a special door with 9 locks, and I have the only one with the key. You know what I mean? This is the gateless gate. There's no gate. This is the open secret. How can there be a secret if it's open? Exactly. Yeah. Our inherent condition is the condition.
And could you describe this as a little death that you went through, like a dying process? It seemed like that Kundalini awakening cut you killed almost.
Yeah, of course. But hey, there's a lot of deaths of a lot of lives. When someone gets sober, there's a death in a sense for the act of being the addict. Yeah. And then there's a rebirth as another expression. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I think it's happening quite a lot. People, because they see themselves as a long-lasting, independent, separate thing, but you've had many lives probably in this one life. Yeah? There's been a number of them. Yeah? So basically, in this one life, we get a lot of lives, man. So the whole thing is, the disease of the mental state will travel and claim to be the one who has all these lives. That's what I'm interested in, is the act of the mental identification happening so quickly with most people not noticing it. Yeah. And so basically, that which was demonstrated in epiphany, as soon as it's cast as you had the epiphany, you've missed the whole message of an epiphany. Really. So you can be a great haver of tons of epiphanies, but as that, you've lost the message of the epiphany. There's nobody here. There's no long-lasting, independent, separate entity. Yes?
Yeah.
If you want to get down to it. Yeah. So what weakens is you lose interest in the need to be liberated, because that which you're not is the only thing that needs to be liberated, and you're not that. Yeah? You lose interest in a lot of these fanciful fucking odysseys. You lose complete interest, and what happens? Find out. Yeah? Find out, but you'll finally be in your own fucking life. That is for sure. Yeah. You'll be here completely. Yeah. Whatever this here is, you're here completely. Yeah.
And still, some people say you have to want this more than anything else. And now I like to listen to you, but when I walk in the street 9 of the 10 times, I'm interested in the next female, or I'm interested in the story of Justin. And so that awakeness don't have any chance to reveal itself in the most parts of my
Well,
life.
just see, why not just use that female to look at, is there a Justin that wants to meet that female, or is there just a wanting to meet a female? Yeah, everything can be used. You don't have to be in contrived situations. You've got the understanding. Now question Justin, not question wanting a girl. Question Justin, because that's what's being implied. That's what's being presupposed to be before the wanting the female. That's the selfing. And you're speaking from the selfing. You're just assuming it's Justin that wants the female. That's what we're pointing out here. That assumption, that just moment to moment assumption is really the bondage of self. Yeah? Because everything that happens is chained to the idea that it's Justin, that had a lot to do with it, and it's not true. Yeah? There's just wanting to meet a female. There's just not wanting this. There's just all this shit. Where does it come? Where was it pontificated that it's Justin that wants to meet a female? That's all made up. Yeah? That has more value in day-to-day living than 20 epiphanies, tell you the truth. Because the epiphanies, when they seem to end, they're being claimed to imply Justin. Once again, I'd much rather see the mental activity that's claiming my life than to have tons of peak experiences in my life. I would. It has more value, tell you the truth. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's what happened. I went to satsang and I saw something. I saw something that was happening and I couldn't put words to it, which is there was a mental claiming of being the one who was hearing about there is no one. And so it was totally defeating the message that I was listening to, taking myself to be the one who was listening to it. I saw it. Yeah. And I haven't not seen it ever since. And to me, the seat assignment that I'm sitting in right now is to point that out. And so we do, over and over and over. Because I don't see any value in moving from this point if you don't see this point. I don't. I don't give a shit how many peak experiences you've accumulated. It doesn't mean shit. It really doesn't. Yeah? As soon as, if there's an act of the mental state claiming to be the one who had the peak experiences have been put to a nefarious use to reinforce the idea of Justin. And so Justin isn't getting out through the peak experiences. It's actually building a bigger Justin, really. Yeah? If you don't see that, you're going to be the effect of it. I guarantee that for sure. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's why Ramana Maharshi, the godfather of non-duality, in a way, points it out and says it in so many different ways, the same idea. There's, in a weird way, I'm paraphrasing, there's a mental taking ourselves to be something other than we are and parading and living a life based on that assumption. So everything that happens in the life of Paul is being claimed to imply that it's Paul that it's doing it or is being happened by it. Yeah? It is a mental narrative. It is an interpretation, and it is at the expense of living. Yeah? You don't feel alive. You're hoping you'll feel alive when you get to Hawaii, or when you hit that 30-foot fucking wave, or you fornicate with that lovely model. Yeah? Now aliveness is put off as something we're going to do and have when we are. Yeah? I'm more interested in that than Kundalini events. I am, seriously. And I've been in Kundalini events. And I've been in peak experiences. And I'm telling you, the real value is in the day-to-day living, yeah, of being awake to being awake. That simple, yes? To me, that's the value beyond all value. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, bro. It's nice to see you.
Thank you, Justin. Next question is from Ruby Rose.
Ruby
Hey,
Rose.
Paul. Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's a made-up name. I really want, I really want to thank you so much for the laughter. Uh, that's literally a shot put that brought me to this particular point in time. I was at a satsang and a man got up, and no matter what he fired at the speaker, he just go, and he looked like a, a kung fu master. He'd just go, nothing, nothing, nothing. And this guy just kept talking, and he just kept saying, nothing, nothing, nothing. And I don't know what happened. I just know that it worked. And I went into this fit of laughter. I don't know how long it lasted. I was on the ground. It was absolutely amazing. And I came up out of myself, and this thing happened where I was beside myself. I mean, you know, we've heard that said a lot, or I have growing up, and it was like, I was beside this thing, literally beside this thing. And it was like, holy shit, you know? And then that was hilarious. And for a long time, uh, I lived with that hilariousness, and I more or less, well, it was more or less done for me that it would stand to wraps, because I, I saw, or the experience was, is however you talk, that's how life was moving. And I was alone with it for a long time. And it's just come to the forefront. I was on a Zoom meeting, and then I heard about another meeting, and I went and you spoke. And it just, the sheer laughter of the insanity of it. Because I would read the big book and I'd think, what the hell's a self? You know, selfie, self-will. And the name Ruby is not beside that. It doesn't say self Ruby or selfie Ruby or self bondage, or, but I knew that it was self bondage because I was hell bent on fixing this shit. Because at a young age, they're like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I cuss, right? And I can't go a lot of places to cuss the way I cuss. So it was like doomed to be self totally. And I just really, really, really appreciate the fact that life put you this way in life, because the relief and the joy and the being able to go somewhere and just have that freedom to be. And I don't need to know. I don't need to know. You reiterate exactly whatever happened in that laughing fit. It's not like shit doesn't happen, but now it's that experience, one of them. There's been, like you said, million. You don't stay attached to them. But beside myself, I can feel now when that beside myself, it's like, oh. And the thing about the 6 and 7 that you speak from so eloquently, yeah, I just offer it up. I really I use my whole body to go, you know, and I call him the dude, I don't know what to do with this. Drop
Yeah.
the rock, all that, here you go. And I do that. I do that. And by the grace, holy mackerel. And I love when I can go Pentecostal in some way. When you speak, it's on that, just that spiritual, yeah. And then I go about vacuuming. So thank you, sweetheart. I can't thank you enough. I really can't. Thank you, thank you.
Ruby. Yes. Well, I like steps 6 and 7 in because it sort of captures the spirit of abandoning self. Yeah. Because in a way, that's obviously you can't abandon what you are, but you can abandon something you're not, obviously. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel the the activity of that abandoning of self is step 6 and 7. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I was
Yeah,
in there, I'd
yeah,
hear people talk about becoming, and I was like, no, it's an unbecoming.
yes,
It's
for
an
sure.
unbecoming. It's an unbecoming. I'm unbecoming, and they'd look at me like, what? And I'm like, I've got to drop this shit.
Well, the thing is, if you look at selfing from the time quality, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's always in the act of becoming, but it implies it already is. You see, that's the trick. So people, if they had an option, if there was options in people, but let's just say if
Mm-hmm.
people had an option during the day, do you really want to become self today, more becoming of self? And then you'd probably, well, I'd like to try something else. I mean, I've been becoming self for a long time, so hey, let's try something new. But hey, we're a Comcast. We don't have those channels. So it's self, self, self. But no, when the selfing is occurring and we're listening to it as if we are self, you see.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So
Mm-hmm.
we don't even get the option of begging off, oh, I'd rather be in the unbecoming, you know, arena of self instead of becoming self. But we're never even given that option. It's like you
No.
were a self, you're gonna be a self, therefore you are a self, and fucking spend the rest of your day trying to get out of it. So, but that trick is all of a magical time quality. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it. I've seen it. That's all I can say. I've seen selfing. Yeah. So the
Mm-hmm.
selfing implies something to already be so. That's what it does. It says you're already fucked. So who wants to deal with that? So let's keep drinking. let's
Yeah.
keep, let's whatever. So basically, like the Course in Miracles would say, we see only the past. Well, exactly.
Right.
I would change it by saying we see from the past,
Yes.
because the self is a mythical character of the past. We think
Yes.
we were one, therefore we're gonna be one, and then it arrives at I am one. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
don't.
Mm-hmm.
This is why. This is why you can't get out of an imaginary place. The imaginary place is assumed to be so. So obviously, it's sort of a hostile environment. It's too hot or whatever. So there's a wanting to get out of it. Yeah. But the wanting to get out of it reinforces the reality that you are in it. You can't get out of it that way. I'm telling you. You can't get out of what you're not in. You cannot
You
fucking get
can't.
out of
No,
what
you
you're not
can't.
in.
Oh.
But you can see you're not in it. That's the beauty. Yeah. So that's why we presented this idea of selfing, because you are before whatever's going on. So you can
True.
see selfing. You can see it. You don't have to look from it all day. You can actually see it. So when you see it, obviously the whole engine is purring for one reason and one reason only. It attracts the fuel it needs, which is interest and attention. So the
Mm-hmm.
interest and attention keeps being given to it because we believe it's about us. When you weaken the us of it, yeah, then the interest and attention is open to be directed other places, yeah, which may enrich your day.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of enslave your day to self, you may enrich your day. Yeah, it's the same interest and attention. It's who's wielding it or what's wielding it. Yeah, I've been at the effect of the mental wielding of attention and interest. I mean, I've I'll leave it at that. Yeah, simple. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whoever next call, you want to do one more or just end or whatever?
I don't see any more hands, Paul. You want to say anything
That's
else
good.
or
That's
say
good,
goodbyes?
Yeah. That's good. I'm so happy for, to be here and uh Zoom is like the sum of us is bigger than all the parts. So there is a juice that occurs with us getting together. Yeah. So, all right, let me say goodbye to, hey, there's Mike. Mike is looking out, he's sitting in front of the window. I can see the hills of San Francisco. Walter from Amsterdam. Yes. We got Paul. Nice to see you, Paul. I got a good shirt today. Hold on. Let's see. Believe. Yeah. All right. Got you today, Paul. Yeah. Maiko, always a pleasure. Jacob, nice to see you. Jack G, I'm not seeing you, but it looks pretty good there. We got Nikki from Nikki. I can't say your last name. O'Conaghan. O'Conaghan. Close? Nice to see you, Nikki. We got Jess. You still in Ireland, Jess?
Yes. Nice to see
Still in
you.
Ireland? All right, good, good. We got let's see, Mike O. We got Justin. Justin, thanks for your shares today. That was very nice. Kristen, Mickey, Carl, Joseph, always a pleasure, everyone here. Amy, this is like Murderer's Row. We got Leah. Nice to see you, Leah. The person, whoever it was that we sent, was thankful for the retreat. So thanks for the donation. Skylar and her mom. There they are. Nice to see you. Yes. That's a dynamic duo. That's we should just keep the camera on and see how that goes all day. Carl from Savannah, Georgia. Nice to see you, Carl. Carl, you just don't hit me as a someone from Savannah, Georgia, but that's just my take. Amy, Sharon. Oh, we just lost Sharon somewhere. Oh, there she is. Sharon, nice to see you. We got Fi, Fee, and her husband there. He's gotten much smaller than before. Yeah, oh, there he goes. Just grew. Stefan on having never left. Kaiser, as always. Nice to see you, Kaiser. Jeremy, yes. Always looking more relaxed than before. That's nice. Arnie, oh, Ann K. The bedrock of the Zoom world for us. Helen, nice to see you, Helen. Yeah. We got Kana M. Nice to see you, Kana. Michael S. from Madeira. Nice to see you, Michael. I didn't hear from you, Michael. You must have got an answer. Ruby Rose. There she is in Wichita. Wow. Nice to see you, Ruby. We got Andy. Ben Ross. Yes, he's going out into the forest right after this. We got Bev, as always. Lance. I think it's Lance. Yes, Lance B. Susanna. Oh, Susanna W. How are you? Good to see you. We got Judy Z from California. Lisa W. Maggie. Nice to see you, Maggie, as always. Jeffrey, Nina, not Tina, Mina. Maybe it's Nina. I don't know which one. Tanya. Hey, listen. Bev again. Yeah. Andy again. Thanks, everyone. It's a pleasure. I hope I see you again this week. And yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Stop recording, Mike, and stop the live on Facebook, and then I will allow people to unmute themselves.
Got it.
All right, you can unmute yourself if you'd like.
Hey, Mike, you're still recording.
Oh, shoot.